We're continuing with our coverage from the Grand Cayman Liberty Forum, and joining me now is a speaker at the event. He's also really an American icon and the author of 3 New York Times bestsellers. Robert Ringer joins me now. Robert, good to have you on the show.
Great to be here, Daniela.
So let's talk a little bit about this message that you're bringing to attendees. I know you're really focusing on American politics right now, and with the midterm elections recently wrapped, what's your view right now?
Well, I don't think the election was any surprise, but the whole question is, did people vote the Democrats out and vote Republicans in for the right reasons? And I'm a skeptic when it comes to governments, because I think government by its very nature is inherently bad, because government is a monopoly on the use of force. It restrains people. So far I haven't seen that much change when the Republicans are in power. Even back in the Reagan years, people don't realize he raised taxes, amnesty, and so forth. So I've got a kind of wait and see attitude. I'm not as convinced as a lot of people are that suddenly the whole world's going to change.
You sound like Doug Casey. I know you're very good friends with Doug, and you've worked with him on his books, right, Robert? Right. So let's talk about what would be needed for a change in America. What do you think needs to change?
Well, what needs to change is what I said in my talk earlier today. You need to fundamentally change the mindset of people. You know, you could have the most conservative or even libertarian president and Congress in the world, but they're not going to be able to govern in a conservative or libertarian way as long as their constituents want stuff, as John Stossel would say, as long as the constituency is liberal. And through decades of gradualism, the government, the shameless politicians, have managed to brainwash the mindset of young people. And we're into generations now that have known no other thing, nothing else but transfer of wealth as a way of life.
And Robert, I know you've said that liberty and equality are conflicting objectives. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, they're conflicting objectives, because to the extent that it won't, as I said in my speech, when one prevails, the other dies. Because if you want to make, the only way you can make people equal is to use force. And if you use force, that of and by itself says that you don't have liberty. And to the extent people are free, people are going to be unequal, because everyone has different talents and skills and luck and education. You do, I do, everyone has. So you can't have both.
What do you make of the recent rally we've seen in the US dollar, the strength of the US dollar, as other currencies in the world just seem to be really faltering right now?
Well, I was having a talk with a gentleman just a little while ago, and we were talking about that very thing. And those of us who predicted long ago that we're going to have a Weimar Republic runaway inflation like Germany in 1923, you know, it sounds good, and in theory, when you look at it, it should happen right away. But the one thing, the currency's being destroyed daily, hourly, by the minute. There's no question about that. But when it will totally collapse, no one knows. And the biggest problem is, I shouldn't say problem, the biggest factor that people don't realize is that whether it's China or any of the European countries, Indonesia, anywhere in the world, the situation is even worse in most of those places than the United States. Russia, another example. So no matter how bad it looks to us living here, you see the Chinese are coming over in droves, and they're the biggest investors, for example, in United States property. So I don't know when the currency is going to collapse. And Danielle, I'm not even sure what that means, collapse.
But are you confident it will collapse?
Well, I don't know what collapse means, because it's worth, depending on who you're discussing it with, it's worth somewhere between 1% and 5% of what it was 100 years ago. So it's kind of like space and time. It's infinity. Okay. You can keep dividing a dollar over and over.
And finally, Robert, we're obviously at an investment conference where people are coming here to gather thoughts about what's the best investment strategy. What's your strategy, or what are you liking?
I've said for a good 35 years, I was talking to a gentleman out here a little while ago about, you know, he said his gold is only worth what it was, 30% of what it was years ago. And I always said, buy gold, buy as much as you can possibly buy, because gold is money. Those pieces of paper in your pocket are not money, and you don't measure the price of gold by dollars. You measure the value of dollars by gold. So gold doesn't change its value. It just reflects how much less when it goes up, it reflects how much less a dollar's worth.
How about gold's current movement right now? Do you get concerned when you see these major fluctuations?
I don't really watch the major fluctuations. There's so many factors at play, and then you've got ISIS, and you've got Russia always up to no good, and what they're doing in the Ukraine, and who knows what's going on with China and human rights. There's so many factors. It's a huge worldwide marketplace now. So if my advice to people would be, is buy gold. I don't believe that 10% or 15%. I think at least 50% of your portfolio should be in gold. And you put it away outside of the United States.
Wow,
yes, and you don't touch it, because that is money. There's only so much of it's been mined since the beginning of time.
And you like owning physical gold?
I think physical gold, I like to own physical everything. I like to know it's in my hand, yeah.
All right, well, good thoughts from you today. Robert Ringer, thank you so much for joining us on Kitco.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for watching our continuous coverage here from the Grand Cayman Liberty Forum. We'll have more for you throughout the day. In the meantime, you can email us at newsfeedback@kitco.com. Thanks for watching.